Good morning or good afternoon, depending on when you're watching it. We're back to English writing class. So in your textbook, you will have page 97. There is and there are. There's a section on page 97 on there is and there are. Now, before we start with page 97, we need to talk about something that is on page 197. On page 197, they talk about count nouns and non-count nouns. And the reason I want to go to page 197, it's an appendix at the end of the book, is because count nouns and non-count nouns are talked about in the page 97. So first thing, before we go to page 97, we need to discuss and make sure you understand count nouns and non-count nouns. So please take your textbook and turn to page 197. 197. Now on page 197, you will see the heading count and non-count nouns and possessive nouns. We're going to concentrate on count nouns, and this is just like an introduction so that you can understand later when I talked about there is and there are. Now, count nouns are nouns that you can count because some nouns you cannot count. For example, they give you about 6 rules here on page 197. There's spelling rules for plural count nouns. Plural means that there's more than one. So the first rule is that for most count nouns, you just add an S to make a plural. For example, sister, to make sister into a plural, you add S. It's sisters. That's the example in the book. You have house. To make house into a plural, you add an S. Houses. So that's the first rule. The second rule is for count nouns that end in X, CH, SH, or SS, you simply add ES. So where the count noun ends in the letters X or CH or SH or SS, you just add an ES. For example, the word box, B-O-X, it ends in an X. To make plural of box, you put ES, boxes, B-O-X-E-S. You have the word match, it ends in CH. To a match, you use a match to start a fire. So, or you have a football match. So the word match, M-A-T-C-H, to make it plural, add E-S, M-A-T-C-H-E-S. These examples are on page 197. Spelling rule number 3, for most count nouns ending in a consonant plus O, you add an ES to make a plural. So a consonant is any letter that is not a vowel. So the consonant plus O, such as the word tomato, T-O-M-A-T-O. So the consonant is T plus O. So to make a plural of tomato, you simply add ES, T-O-M-A-T-O-E-S. Tomato becomes tomatoes. Volcano, volcano, V-O-L-C-A-N-O. To make a plural out of volcano, you add ES, volcanoes. Okay. The only exception to the rule with the consonant plus O ending, for example, photos, P-H-O-T-O-S, you just add an S, not an E-S. Pianos, one piano, two pianos, P-I-A-N-O-S. So here you have to just add S. The fourth rule, for count nouns ending in a vowel, in a vowel plus Y, you add S. So the example in the book, boy, B-O-Y, it ends in a vowel plus Y, B-O-Y. It becomes boys by adding an S, B-O-Y-S. The noun key, K-E-Y, vowel is E plus Y. To make a plural, you add S, keys. Rule number 5, for count nouns ending in a consonant plus Y, change the Y to I and add ES. Rule 5, for count nouns ending in a consonant plus Y, change the Y to I and add ES. For example, baby, one baby, B-A-B-Y. You change the Y to an I and add ES. B-A-B-Y becomes B-A-B-I-E-S. Party, P-A-R-T-Y. One party. Plural of parties is P-A-R-T-I-E-S. The 6th rule is for most count nouns ending in F or F-E, you drop the F-E and add V-E-S. For example, loaf, one loaf of bread, okay? One loaf of bread, L-O-A-F. To make a plural, you take away the F, you add V-E-S. Wife, one wife, W-I-F-E. If there's two wives, two of them, W-I-V-E-S. So you take away the F and you add V-E-S. So there are also something called irregular count nouns. They're slightly different. So the first rule under irregular count nouns, some count nouns have an irregular plural form. In other words, you cannot just add ES or S or change the Y, change it from Y to IES. For example, one person, the plural of person is people. One child, the plural of child is children. One man, the plural of man is men. One woman, the plural of woman is women, W-O-M-E-N. Tooth, the plural of tooth is teeth. The plural of foot is feet. So those are irregular because you cannot just add an S or ES. Also, some count nouns have the same form in the singular and the plural. So one fish or two fish, the spelling of fish is the same. You do not change it. Sheep, one sheep or two sheep. You do not add an S. You do not change anything. So fish and sheep are two nouns where you do not change the word when you make it plural. Finally, some count nouns have only a plural form. You do not have one gene. It has to be jeans, J-E-A-N-S, a pair of jeans. You cannot have one gene. Clothes, you have clothes. You cannot say one clo without the S. One pair of pants, you still have to have the S. One pair of eyeglasses, even though it's one, you use the ES. Okay, now I said that we needed to talk about count and non-count nouns because on page 97 later on in this video, you're going to learn about, or you're going to use count and non-count nouns. So we just finished talking about count nouns and the spelling rules for them. Now, non-count nouns are talked about on page 198. So turn to page 198. So non-count nouns, according to the book, have only one form. In other words, These nouns cannot be counted. Non-count nouns means a noun that cannot be counted. For example, it is not correct to say one homework or many homeworks. It's just homework. You don't say I have many homeworks, I just have homework. If you want to say that there's a lot of work, then you can say I have a lot of homework. Or if you don't have a lot of it, if the teacher did not give you very much homework, you can say I don't have very much homework, or I have very little homework. Other examples of non-count nouns on page 198 are things like bread, butter, cheese, fish, fruit, lettuce, meat, soup. All of those things, you do not add an S, you do not make it plural. You don't say lettuces, you don't say meats. So in other words, you do not say I'm going to eat a lot of meats. You're going to say I'm going to eat a lot of meat. You're not going to say I'm going to have many soups. You're going to say I'm going to have a lot of soup. You do not say I'm going to have many cheeses. I'm going to have a lot of cheese. Other non-count nouns are coffee, gasoline, juice, milk. You do not say I'm going to have many coffees. You're going to say I'm going to have a lot of coffee. Or if you're talking about juice, you do not say I'm going to have 5 juices. You're going to say I'm going to have a lot of juice, or I'm going to have a lot of soda, or a lot of water. There are substances with very small parts are also non-count nouns: dirt, dust, flour, pepper, rice, salt, sand, sugar. You do not say I'm going to have a lot of, you do not say I'm going to have many sugars or many rice. You just say I'm going to have a lot of rice or a lot of sugar. Or air, you don't say I want to have many airs. You're going to say I want a lot of air, and so on. Helium, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. When we're talking about weather or ideas, problems, or other things, those are also non-count nouns. For example, fog, ice, rain, snow. You do not say there's many snows, there's many rains, there's many ices. No, it's just non-count. Advice. Do you not say I have got a lot of advices to give to you? No, I got a lot of advice. You do not say I want to have a lot of educations. You just say I want to have a lot of education, no S. Happiness is not plural either. There's no help. You don't say I want to have a lot of helps. I need a lot of help. Hope, and so on. So I just wanted to say and explain about count and non-count nouns, because now we're going to go back to page 97. So let's go back to page 97. On page 97, the heading is there is and there are. Now, sentences with there is and there are often introduce new information. This is at the top of page 97. For example, there is no school on Friday. The new information is no school on Friday. Sometimes sentences with there is and there are often tell the time of something. For example, there is a train at 7:30 a.m. Also, they sometimes tell where someone or something is. For example, there are good restaurants in my hometown. So there is and there are used to introduce new information. Sometimes it tells the time of something. Sometimes it tells where something is or where someone is. Now, there is a section in the book on page 97, the same one I'm talking about, where it says statements with there is and there are. This is page 97. So they talk about there is and you use it with a singular noun or a non-count noun. Remember, I explained to you what non-count noun. It's a noun you cannot count. So, for example, there is a lake in my hometown. Or, if we're talking about non-count, there is music on the radio. Music is a non-count noun. So a lake is a singular noun. Music is a non-count noun. So those are two examples of using there is. There is a lake in my hometown. There is music on the radio. You use there are for plural nouns. For example, there are 4 people in my family. There are many things to see and do. So 4 people, that's plural. Many things, that's also plural. Now, there are more rules about using there is and are. These rules are in the second half of page 97. So let's read them, or let's read them together. The first rule, use there is or there are plus no plus the noun to form a negative statement. Again, you use there is or there are plus no plus the noun to form a negative statement. For example, there is no stadium in my city. There are no tall buildings in my hometown. There is no snow in the winter. So in each of those 3 examples, we use there is or there are plus no plus the noun. So we use stadium, buildings, snow. Our second rule, do not confuse there are with they are. Sometimes people write or speak and confuse the two. So do not confuse there are with they are. Use there are to introduce new information. For example, there are 2 rivers in my city. You're talking about new information. There are 2 rivers in my city. Use they instead of repeating a noun. So they is used instead of repeating a noun. They are the Danube and the Sava. So you were talking in the first sentence about 2 rivers. So you don't want to repeat the phrase the 2 rivers, so you just use they. So they is used instead of repeating a noun. The third rule, do not confuse there with there. In other words, third rule, do not confuse T-H-E-R-E with T-H-E-I-R. They're 2 very different words. Use T-H-E-R-E plus is or are. For example, there are 2 girls in the group. Use T-H-E-I-R plus a noun. There shows possession. So T-H-E-I-R shows possession. Possession means who owns it or whose it is, right? If you have a cell phone or a computer, it's your telephone. So your is shows possession. If you're talking about plural, you can say, if you're talking about many students and their cell phones, you can say it's their cell phones. In the book, they have their names are Isabel and Pilar. So their, T-H-E-I-R, their names are Isabel and Pilar. So their shows possession. Whose names are they? They're Isabel's and Pilar. Okay, so that's there and there. So now there are some examples or questions that I'd like you to work on. The exercises are on page 98. The first exercise, practice 5. It says complete the sentences, write there is or there are. It's fill in the blank. Remember to follow the rules about there is or there are. There is usually about singular. There are is about plural. And then correcting errors with there, T-H-E-R, E, T-H-E-I-R, and T-H-E-Y. So that's practice number 6. This is an exercise on page 98, practice number 6. Correcting errors with there, and they. So there are 9 more errors with there, and they. This is in the middle of page 98. So you have to make the corrections. Find 9 errors and make the corrections. And then the final exercise on page 98 says try it out. Take out a sheet of paper. Write your answers to the questions. Use there is or there are. For example, there are 3 floors in my building. They give you 6 questions in the last section on page 98. They give you 6 questions. They want you to write your answers. The first question, how many floors are there in the building where you live? Well, each of you students will probably have different questions because some of you live in different parts of a building, so you don't have the same number of floors in your apartment building, or some of you don't live in an apartment building, you won't have the same number either, because if you live in a house, then you might say there are 2 floors or maybe just 1 floor. So we finished talking about there is, there are. Now I'd like to if you'd like to take a break, then just stop this video. Otherwise, you can just turn to page 99 and we're going to talk about another area in the book on page 99. It says using prepositions to describe location. Location, what does location mean? Location is where something is compared to something else. So prepositions that show location are words like between, next to, in front of, in back of, near, in, on, and at. And in the map on page 99, you can see a map of some countries. It's in Central America. Those are all small countries. So they give you some examples of sentences using those kind of location words. Costa Rica is next to Nicaragua. You can see Costa Rica in green and Nicaragua is in red. So it's next to. Costa Rica is between Nicaragua and Panama. So Costa Rica, Costa Rica, the green country, is between Nicaragua and Panama. Between means it's sort of in the middle. So there are several rules using in, on, and at to describe location. In your textbook, these rules are found on page 99. So on page 99, the first rule, use in plus a continent, country or state, or province or city. So a continent is like Asia, or Southeast Asia, or North America, or South America, or Europe, or Africa, all of those, or Australia. Australia is also a continent. Or country, or state, or province. In Thailand, we have provinces. In America, we have states. So the first rule is use in plus the continent name or the country name or the state name or the province or the city. For example, Canada is in North America. There are 10 provinces in Canada. The beautiful city of Vancouver is in British Columbia. British Columbia is a province. My cousins live in Vancouver. Vancouver is a city. The second rule is use on plus a street without a specific address or a floor of a building. So if you do not know the specific address, only the street name, or only the floor of the building without a specific apartment number, then use on. Their office building is on King Street. We are meeting on the 10th floor. You see, there is no specific number on the street, so you can say on King Street. There's no specific apartment in the building, it's just the 10th floor, so you can say on the 10th floor. The third rule is we use at plus a specific address or building. So if you have a specific address or a specific building, then you can use at. For example, the Kellys live at 132 Maple Street. The Kellys is referring to the name of a family. That's their last name, so we can say it's the Kellys with an S. The Kellys live at 132 Maple Street. He works at the hospital, so you know what building it is, so you say at. He works at the hospital. So now we have finished talking about location words or prepositions to describe locations. Now I want you to turn to page 100. There's two exercises, exercise A and exercise B. The first exercise says complete the sentences with in, on, or at. You have 8 sentences, fill in the blank, choose the best answer. Part B, complete the sentences, and it's more of a personal kind of exercise. They want you to write something about yourself. Could be almost anything. They give you the beginning of the sentence, the beginning of 4 sentences. Number 1, I live in, and then you say, where do you live? Number 2, my hometown is in. So in other words, where the hometown is where you were born. Number 3, I live on. So you have to finish that sentence. Number 4, I live at. Remember about the rules in, on, or at. The rule about in is used where you have in plus a continent or a country or a state or a province or a city. Remember the rule about on, use on plus an address, use on plus a street with no specific address, or on plus a floor of a building. However, if you know the specific address or the building, then you can use at. Use at plus a specific address or building. Okay, so give your best shot to those 2 exercises. Okay?